Hi, everyone. Thank you for braving this weather and coming out today. I want to welcome you all to the Broad. At Patuto, I'm Director of Audience Engagement here at the museum. And I want to extend a particular thank you to our three distinguished guests today. We are beyond thrilled and honored to have, arguably the most important, relevant voice right now in journalism in Los Angeles on this stage, along with, that's Memo Torres. You should check him out every night for the Daily Memo. I also want to introduce the two publishers of LA Taco, Alex and Samar Bloomingdale, who are with us. Also, Patrick Martinez, who is a great artist. Patrick's work, which you see up here, he's in the Broad collection, and it's increasingly becoming the visual language of the movement of resistance here in LA, which we need. And last but certainly not least, Grammy-winning recording artist Miguel, whose new release, Kaios, is absolutely brilliant. If you have not downloaded it yet, please do. It's wonderful to see on the sidewalks all over downtown. You see it spray painted, to advertise it, and it's really exciting to have you here today and to hear what you have to say about what we in the arts and in journalism can do to help support the communities of Los Angeles who are really vulnerable right now. I want us to remember that that's why we're here and what we're going to be discussing, and also discussing what you all can do to help out. So I wanted to start off by saying, or asking, something that struck me in just reviewing everyone's work is the intense humanism and care for people that's expressed in what you do. Miguel, your lyrics, your own compassion for yourself and the processes you've been going through, but also when you speak and are interviewed, you're talking about what's going on in the world with that same compassion. And Patrick's messages that are poetic and beautiful. We reprinted one of his neon artworks, and it said, we did this several months ago, and when all this first started happening, it said they tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. It's those messages of hope we need right now. And Memo Torres, who, every night on I say night because I watch it at night, the Daily Memo, what's always strikes me is the intense way, the care, the humanism that you express. You're not angry, but you're letting us know the human impact of what's going on right now in this country. So I wanted you all to talk about how you think about the impact you want to have on your audience, how you see using your respective platforms as a vehicle, and what are the messages you want to be giving to people right now?
All right, I'll go first. Look, I think we're dealing in a world right now where people are being dehumanized, right? Immigrant communities are being called rapists, that they eat dogs, that they're criminals, the criminal illegal alien. And they're, anytime we reach out to DHS or DHS has a press report, criminal, illegal alien, they don't refer to them as fathers, as sons, as mothers, our neighbors, our friends. And when I started doing these daily memos, it wasn't a plan. I didn't plan to humanize them, because to me they're not what the administration wants to say. To me, those are these are my people, right? LA folks. These are you guys. It's real people. So when I talk about it the way I know, the way I grew up in LA. The relationships I've built, and that's who they are to me, They took the tamalero, they took the father, they took a grandpa. Not an 87-year-old man, criminal, not a guy who has a previous DUI, not a guy that came over here and overstayed his visa. These are real people. So that's what I try to approach it, and I try to, I portray it the way I see it, which is human beings. So.
I say it all the time with my work. I'm trying to represent the time that we're living in now. And in that, I don't want to look away. I want to kind of take in the good and the bad and speak to that, because those things, those happenings, these kidnappings, everything that's happening, I'm trying to cement that in some of the work, because as we see now, right, things are being erased and tucked under the rug or kicked under the rug. And I look at art like that, it could be one of those, not that it's permanent, but it can be a signifier or a artifact in showing kind of where we've been and where we're, kind of headed. But that's how I approach it. And I don't live my life like a compartmentalized, like this is my work. It's all kind of free flowing, and I'm responding in real time with either drawing, sculpture, even the neon sculptures. It's urgent, and it's something that that I'm attached to. The whole process of making art is what I'm attached to, but even just kind of like responding is almost kind of a responsibility for me, or something that I lean on to kind of like, even if it's just something speaks to beauty, that's valid too. But also I want to speak about what's happening in the streets of, especially if it's in LA, and that's in the aesthetic, that's in the content, that's in the figure, if I'm drawing it and painting it. Those are the things I want to talk about, and the things that I want to produce, things that aren't existing yet that speak about that, what I want to add to the conversation. Those are the things I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I would say aggressive compassion is probably at the core of my work, especially now. I think looking at what we're faced with, it's clear that in the same way Memo said, there's a lot of dehumanization happening every day, and I think it's easy to be desensitized to kind of the importance humanity plays in how we move forward. And so, yeah, at the core of my work, I would say an aggressive compassion for myself, for each other, and allowing that to identify the work. I think that's the core.
When I read and listen to so many of your lyrics, you really express that, and when you're actually writing, how conscious are you of that, or is it just something you do naturally? Could you talk a little bit about that creative process?
That's certainly something I had to learn, to discover. I think it's a never-ending refinement of, I think, the principle behind the music, and I think realigning with whatever was going to motivate the next work for me has been always kind of the one foot in front of the next process, starting from a very different place, which was so much more, not completely, but so much more informed by commercial recognition and the success of the work, which is a part of living in a, it's the paradigm we live in. We have to survive, and obviously these things do affect our ability to do so, to provide for our families, for ourselves, and so on and so forth. I think now when I step in, when I look at the opportunity that I have to express myself genuinely with my point of view and what that can do in terms of highlighting the humanity in the work, so as to bring people together around the details and the experience. I think that's the big part about it. I think that's what great art does, and I've said this a number of times, especially more recently. I think it's why we'll always come to the Broad, why art is significant and important and always will be. I think emotionality is at the core of the work. It's why we love art, regardless of if it's music or if it's fine art or what have you. Emotionality is what brings people together, and it allows us to have the necessary conversations.
That makes me think of another question I wanted to ask you all. I mean, Miguel, both you and Patrick grew up in homes and have lived lives across, diverse communities, diverse races. You're out in the community every day. with people from many, many different countries. This city, what makes LA LA, what makes this city great, what makes it such a vibrant culture, is its profound diversity and the mix of people here, and that we embrace that. And I wanted to ask you all, what are your thoughts about how we can do more to bring people together so that those communities that are being targeted right now are not so isolated? That was the impetus of this partnership with the Broad and LA Taco, and it is something that we hope to continue into the future, and I'd love to hear all three of you talk about that and give us some suggestions of what your thoughts are.
I'll say one thing that I love is watching celebration of culture is so, it's such in a time where we're realizing the effects of colonialism, where we're seeing authoritarianism kind of peek its head. We're seeing fascism and hints of that in the very fabric of our politics now. These all work to erase cultural identity. In a city like Los Angeles, where it's so vibrant, all of the culture here, we've got, obviously there's Latinos here, you got black people here, you got Filipino, you got little Tokyo, you got Chinatown, you got all of this beautiful mixture of culture. You've got, the Persians and we've got so much here, and I think more that we can lean into celebrating them and the cultural identity, to me, gives each individual an opportunity to experience how similar we are in the differences in our cultures. I think that's what, when you go sit with somebody at their home and you're like, yo, y'all get together just like we do. Y'all just love to get together just like we do. Oh, you guys do that during the holidays? That's what you got? Man, that reminds me of this thing that we do. I think the ability to really celebrate the individuality or the uniqueness of our cultures actually does more to bring people to seeing that we're not so different and there's not so much separation. So I'd like more of that if possible.
I was going to say kind of like expose the connective tissue, right? Like expose the connections we all have here, right? The people on the ground, Americans, everyone that's here, we have more in common than we don't. And, there's people that want us to feel like we're isolated. There's people that want us to feel like we shouldn't worry about other people. Once we start to understand that we're all kind of in the same boat, then as a unit, there's a lot that can be done.
Sorry. So Miguel mentioned the celebration, celebrating cultures. A couple hours I was standing downstairs and I just seeing thousands of people pouring in and out. And I'm just looking at everybody, and everybody's so different from all over LA. Age groups, color of skin, ethnicities, dress styles. And then I saw like a few different people just dancing. Strangers started dancing together, Like, I thought that was great, and I think that's something and I appreciate the Broad for doing these community days, because I think that's really strong. You guys are bringing community to celebrate art, and everybody's finding this connection through art. At LA Taco, one of our sayings is celebrating the taco lifestyle. Because in LA, everybody who doesn't love tacos? If you don't, get out. I'm just telling you right now. Right? You all got a favorite taco, and I'm glad to argue about it with y'all. There's nothing people love to argue about more than tacos. We're possessive about that. But I think through celebrating tacos, through food, through art, through music, I think that's one way, and having spaces like the Broad is definitely effective to bring these people together and find the commonality, the common thread. And I think because LA is so segregated, and it's natural. you have the history of redlining, right? You have the policies that separated communities, but you also have immigration, when you have somebody from a certain country, right, whether it be Russia or Ukraine, more people kind of start following where they find their people. So that also creates natural segregation in a way. So if there's a way you can create, like, the night markets are great, right? Different events are great like that. And you can pull these people together from different areas to kind of celebrate and start doing more of that around LA. I think that's a great way to bring people together from different communities. So food, art, music, that's the way.
Memo, can you talk some about kind of the evolution of LA Taco from tacos, from art, to being, as far as I can see, the only voice, the only journalistic outlet right now, certainly in LA, I can't speak for the country, I'm not that familiar with it, that is consistently covering, what's going on in immigrant communities and not letting us forget what's going on. And, how did that come about? Because you really have stepped up. And, we all need to support LA Taco in their efforts. And, downstairs.
Thank you.
Downstairs, there's a table, and you should stop down there and find out what you can do to help out. But can you share some of that with us?
Well, at LA Taco, just talking about the food and how celebrating the taco lifestyle, that really leads all our coverage, whether it be covering the culture, covering local news, covering the communities. I think for me, food is just such a great gateway to, find a little Russian deli in, Tarzana, or go to like a Ethiopian restaurant and you get to see how they eat. You get to interact with the people that serve the food, and you get to learn a little bit about different people. That also creates ties and relationships with the community, right? So we've had this record of just going out and speaking to mom and pops, different organizations doing things in the community, different stores. And that relationship building over the years has really connected us with different parts of LA. So when all of a sudden the ice raid started on June 6th when they hit the apparel company, people were notifying us. Javier was like, it was Friday afternoon, we were getting ready to go home, and Javier's like flipping out, our chief editor, where's everybody at? Where's Lex? He's not answering his phone. Eventually Lex was like, shout out to Lex right here. Lex is like, I'm already here, guys. I'm already here.
Great photographer.
I was already like, I'm on the social media. Javier's already getting ready to type stuff up, and we're all just working together. We've been working together for so long, we have just a natural flow with each other. We know where our strengths are and how to work with each other and how to lean on each other. But that is also true with the community, right? And the community for us, somebody asked me one day, like, so how did that meeting go when you guys sat down and decided to do this? I'm like, there was never a meeting. There was never a meeting for us. It was like, they're attacking the communities we've been covering for the last 6-7 years. It was instinctual, like that's what we need to do. And they were all reaching out to us. And we're like, we have to, it was just natural. It was like a knee-jerk reaction. So that was the evolution.
When you go out into communities, what's the response people have to you?
Now it's weird, man. People want to take selfies with me. I'm not used to that. But overall, it's appreciation, man. It's crazy to see how I'll see other media get there and they're like, okay, cool, we'll do the media thing. But then they run to us and they're like, guys, we love you guys so much. Thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate it. We need you guys. It's overwhelming, the gratitude that people show us. And it really gets to me. I've had people just walk up with tears and just say, I just want to thank you. And I guess you.
And thank you for doing what you do. I wanted to ask something a little bit more personal. So all three of you are fathers. Miguel, you just welcomed a son who's here with us today.
He's out there.
My son's here too somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, your son is here as well.
I've been looking for him this whole time. I'm like, where?
Patrick, you have a daughter. How has becoming fathers kind of affected your respective work, your how you might use your platform as artists or journalists, and how you think about, what we're doing now and the world we leave behind, for our next generation.
I'll let you guys, I already talked.
There's the amount of faith that that I can honestly say I'm experiencing that I thought I had faith before. I grew up very religiously. I grew, raised in religion, and I thought I knew what faith was. I think the short version of it is there's a different kind of faith now that underwrites the intention in the work. That's why earlier when I said aggressive compassion, to be so dedicated to seeing that there is something worth fighting for, something to work towards, that the work is actually worth doing. I would imagine Memo like going out there, say that might be him there.
That's your baby right there.
Yeah. That's I think that's what is different in how it's informed. It's given a different purpose to the music, even if I think it's about being so true to a point of view, so that there's a thread of, again, humanity and a unique something that someone from a completely different walk of life might be able to feel that they can't put their finger on, but they can relate to. That to me is the big difference. Is I'm searching for a way to be so compassionate with myself, so as to expose, so as to peel away the things that feel I've put to protect myself, so as to open and connect. I think that's the biggest difference.
I think you really succeeded that in Kaios.
Thank you so much.
It really comes, again, please listen to it.
Please,
listen to the
please.
lyrics.
Shameless self-promotion.
But it's moving, and we need art that's moving right now. Patrick, I see you sometimes making art with your daughter, and I know that that's got to be an incredible moment for you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was in the cards for me, right? She came 4 years ago, and my art practice was just about me, like just kind of working in the studio, and I have a whole family, and I supporting them through the work that I make. But the focus and the urgency just got even greater, right? Because and it's so like intense, because I'm thinking about, we're all going to leave this earth, and she's, in my case, she'll still be around, and what am I gonna tell her? Like, what can I offer her, in terms of like prep, or I can be honest with her, but I also want to show, or not only because of that, but I want to have the effort shown. And I was always interested in the pushback, but even more so now because she's here, and it's just an intense kind of focus and urgency that kind of it just increased tenfold. And it's just, I'm at the studio or at home, and then sometimes I go out and go do the art thing. But it definitely grounded me in, I tell people this all the time, I participate in the art world, but I live in the real world, and my daughter and my family helped me grounded me in that world, so I'm able to make the work that I need to make, that I'm, the work that I'm here to make.
And so just so you all know, in case you're not familiar, this is one of a whole series of neon signs, mostly quotes from revolutionary leaders and civil rights leaders. Do you talk to your daughter about the meaning of these neon signs? And if so, how, you know?
She's 4, so she kind of, you know, like, she recognizes.
Too early.
No, but she recognizes that that's daddy's work, or that's that, you know, she'll tell us, oh, that's daddy's work, that's daddy's work. But she also looks at graffiti on the freeway, and she's like, that's daddy's work. And I'm like, that's not my work. And then she'll look to like my brother, it's like, that's your work? And like, no, that's not my work. But she thinks I do everything, like even the carpet the other day, she's like, you made this? I was like, but she knows that I made things. So that's where the entry point is right now. She likes to make things too. She paints and she draws. So I kind of gently facilitate that. But in terms of like the medium and the materials, she understands that might be my work. Yeah. The messages come soon, I think.
No, I think that actually here at the Broad, really for me at least, the most important work we do is with young people, our student programs. I've even sometimes said to our education staff, okay, your job is to seed little radicals here. Yeah. You know, to teach kids that they can use creativity and art to say things that are difficult to say, to address issues that are difficult to talk about. And I think that's the brilliance of great artists, is enabling us to do that. Memo, what about you? I know I met your one son. Do you have other children?
Yeah. I have 2 kids, very proud of them. They're way older because as a true Mexican, I started early. Got to keep it alive, you know what I mean? So yeah, my son, he's here. He's been working that booth downstairs. He's 20. My daughter's 23. She's at UC Merced. My son's at CSUN. You know, they really made being a father super easy. They're fantastic kids. You know, they never get me any trouble. In fact, I'd be like, go smoke some weed or something, you know, like, go find some good trouble, right? Like, you're too good. You guys are too good. So shout out to them. Honestly, like me being able to do what I do at LA Talk was because they're so supportive in that sense, that they make it easy, and they're proud. They always tell me how proud they are. So I love them to death. And when I do the work I do at LA Taco, I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking about their future. I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about my nephews and nieces. I'm thinking about the world that they're going into, and that somebody needs to be out there and be outspoken and document. Like, people need to be making this fight. So for me, it's not just personal because I love LA and they're attacking my communities. I mean, for a long time, I was a landscaper. I grew up in gardening before I started doing journalism at LA Taco. So I know a lot of these, like, I've worked with these people that get picked up, the gardeners especially. And actually, I've known 4 gardeners that got picked up already. 2 of them used to work with me. So besides that, and then my kids, I'm just like, this isn't the world like that I wanted to grow up in. So I'm really motivated by making sure we can stop this so that they don't have to grow up like this.
Do you take them along to some of I know your son is here helping out today, but, you know, in terms of any of the journalism or reporting you do you think there's a young journalist, budding journalist among your children?
I mean, who knows? I mean, I was a young journalist at 39.
A budding journalist.
I was blooming at 39, if you would say. So who knows what the road has ahead for them? I definitely didn't expect to do this. I hate writing with a passion, but here I am, writing every fucking day. So, yeah, maybe. And no, I don't take them along with me, but they always like, Dad, we need to go get tacos. My son was like, Dad, can we go get tacos after this? I'm like, yeah, we'll go get tacos. So the food is what we share the most.
That's good. So I wanted to ask all of you, you know, how you see amplifying your work in the future. I know LA Taco, you have some ambitious plans. That's what your current membership campaign is about. Miguel, I've heard you speak on Sway's show about building a platform for artists of color who are emerging to be able to, you know, develop their work. And Patrick, we have great ambitions for distributing your work and making sure that everyone in LA sees this. So could you all talk about kind of how you envision yourself, into the future, your impact into the future with your respective work?
Yeah, I'm glad to jump in, I guess. S1C is a platform that I've developed with the intention of supporting radicals, like you spoke of. I think development and nurturing of great ideas that connect people in ways that need to happen, especially because there is yet to be a lot of stories have yet to be told. We've seen a lot of the same stories told over and over about our respective cultures that there's just more variety. There's so much more out there, and it's so much more dense, and there's way more opportunity for us to find the similarities in our experiences. So S1C is about pairing capital and stewardship to left of center, as you mentioned, Black, Latino, Brown creatives of all disciplines, and empowering them with those two things in a way that that ensures that they have creative and financial freedom, and that one doesn't come at the expense of the other. So I think the difference between what we want to do is that it's all with education up front. There's an educational arm that helps really inform each artist about the pitfalls, the advances, the technology that may be impacting their respective principle, and the business of the intersection of how their principle meets the market, and helps them prepare to make decisions that really benefit them long term. So that's my next 10 years, yeah.
That's wonderful. It makes me think back to during the time we had a Keith Haring show, and it was also the 50th anniversary of hip hop. We did a lot of work with Chuck D, Public Enemy. And he made, along with Lori Bula, his manager, a 4-part docu-series for PBS, first BBC, then PBS, on how hip-hop made the world. And one of the things he said in there is that Black Lives Matters couldn't be as big as it was, a worldwide movement, the largest civil rights movements ever, if it weren't for hip-hop. Because everybody knew what it was like in Black communities in the United States and what police brutality looked like. And I think about, the surge right now in Latin music. I think about Jay-Z putting Bad Bunny on the Super Bowl stage, and Jay-Z saying something like, "What, you don't think I didn't know what I was doing?" And how much we need to really have these voices in art right now, more so than ever.
Representation throughout it.
Patrick, what are your thoughts?
For the work, it's, a lot of people think that I'm in the studio with 20 assistants and, a bunch of, admin people. It's just me, my brother, and I have like an assistant that does my admin stuff. So it's really organic. It's really just kind of free flowing. And I hope that it continues that way so it has room to kind of grow and be in places that it wasn't expected to be in. And, kind of coming together with the right, folks and letting it kind of, letting the work activate, through the people here, the people that we come together with, all of it. It's just kind of, kind of a free flowing kind of, that's how I operate. I don't really have a, kind of a plan. It's just I make and then put out and see how that can kind of, the work tends to grow legs. How can it be useful, like in certain ways, right? How can it end up, how can it be a tool for either, like a teaching tool or how could it be useful in the way that there can be like a, a protest or some kind of activation, and the work is there as a signifier to kind of like a placeholder for the person that doesn't know what to compose on the piece of cardboard that they're ready to, kind of come to that pushback with.
Memo, you want to talk to us about LA Tacos plans and the campaign you're in the middle of?
Yeah. So, look, I work with a group of the most wonderful people at LA Taco. I love these guys. And don't get shy. And I love them because I think we have a shared vision for LA Taco. We've been building this project. We've almost closed down. We almost shut down last year. Through it all, the core of the group has never given up on the vision, right? I think one of the things that differentiates us and our style of journalism, one is that most of us didn't go to journalism school, so we don't have those traditional journalism, teachings. I think a lot of journalism teaches people to don't get too close, try to be objective. For us, we do get close. We do get involved with our communities. We do try to understand, and I think that's the best way we at LA Taco are able to report. We don't just report ourselves. We look for people in those communities, the voices, to tell those stories. To us, that's important. I think that's been effective. We have, Javier Cabral has the Media Lab course he's teaching at USC, where he's trying to bridge the gap between influencers and media and journalism. There's a lot of distrust right now in national media, even in some local media. And I think us at LA Taco have been figuring out ways and been adaptive and pushing a new way forward to build that trust up again, to not fight the algorithms but use them. We've gone from newspaper to website to now to social media. People don't really read papers anymore. They've been stopping to make papers, right? People aren't going to websites as much. They're trying to get their information from social media. So how do we adapt to that? How do we tell these stories? How do we keep people informed? And I think that's why a lot of people have been giving us their trust. We've been earning that. And we have this vision, and we're pushing forward. And our vision is to just keep that growing and pave a way not just for people to trust journalism again, but for other media outlets to kind of learn from us, which I believe they have. So the vision is to keep that growing. We'd love to have a huge newsroom. We'd love to be able to cover all of LA. We'd love to be the voice of LA, and that's why we need you guys to subscribe and be subscribers. LA Times has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, I think. I don't know the actual number, don't quote me on that. We got 6,000 maybe, just under that. Imagine if we had 12,000. What we could do. So it doesn't take much. So please consider subscribing.
And if you want to know how you can do that, thank you. Please. Please stop at the table downstairs. So we're going to have a few questions from the audiences. If you have a question, please raise your hand, then stand up. I'll repeat the question, and you can ask our panelists here. Yes, yes.
Hi, I have questions. Did LA Taco cover anything about the caravans or any of the detention camps from ICE and what they're doing with the closure and making sure it's liberating the border in a with what science was experimented in ICE camps. In ICE camps, to allow immigration from the South to come in easily, and create the manifestation of Indian politics in Los Angeles County.
I don't know if I can totally repeat that question.
Yeah, I'm not
sorry.
sure I missed that clearly, sorry. I'll tell you what we are focusing on. We're focusing on what we can. We're a small team. So whatever we're reporting on is what we can because, me, Izzy, Aisha back there, I see them. We're doing 12, 14-hour days. Our team are relentlessly working nonstop. We're trying to cover the stories we can. There's so many stories we can't get to. So I think that's why it's important that, we can get more subscribers so we can look into issues like that. So Yeah, I don't know if I totally understood the question, so I don't know if I can understand it, but you know, we are covering as much as we can. You know.
Well, yeah, I guess, the connection
Okay.
with, the caravan covering the queer experience for Latin America and coming into the States. And then, seeing how, like, truths of what as science was experimented in detention centers being done to the people, and,
Actually,
how it connects with the Pride queer movement.
yeah. Well, actually, if I can say something about that, here at the Broad, you know, one of our ethos is we never ghettoize anybody. So, you know, we feature Black artists all year. You know, not just during Black History Month. We do the same with Native artists, not during Native History Month. Same with Latino artists. The same thing with queer artists. And I think that is, I can't speak for journalism, I know Memo just said, you know, but I think that's one of the things the arts can do. And I think that it's one of the things that I'm most proud about being an Angelino, is that, you know, we have a mix of people here in this city, and by and large, we all get along. Not to say there aren't issues sometimes, but I think it's one of the things we can teach the rest of the country about, and I think culture is key to that. It's how we can provide leadership. Next question. Yes, the young lady in the front.
Thinking about like fascism and how, you know, a big part of how regimes succeed at that is by like silencing, right? And we've been seeing a lot of that, and this is kind of for Miguel and for LA Taco, but like all the artists on the stage, like how do you know, I love your album. I think it's a masterpiece. And it's like, you're one of the few artists that's talked about Gaza, right? Like we have not heard anyone.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
Don't kick me out. We haven't heard anyone in the last 2 years talk about that. Maybe I'm just curious, like as an artist who does need to get signed, who needs to stay signed, who needs to get their album pushed, how do you wrestle with that? LA Taco, yeah, you need subscribers, but there's ads, and I think a lot of journalism is neutral because like it's hard to get money when you're not neutral. Even as a fine artist, right? Like getting into the museums, I'm just curious how you wrestle that line. And I'm really curious, Miguel, with you, because like there's a reason why people in music are not talking about this. Like people have lost their entire livelihoods over just calling something a genocide, which it is.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know kind of from all the creative angles, how you do that without risking it all.
And thank you for the kind note about the album. It means a lot. Just anyone listening to the work, or just all of us I know care so deeply about our work. It's just anytime anyone points something specific about that recognizes the intention, it's just really, really encouraging. So thank you. You know, Memo reminding everyone that subscribing is important, you know, and considering subscribing, I think is really, really at the core of the answer. My answer is that I'm empowered by my audience. It's why we built s1c.la. You can go there and subscribe. I'm gonna follow suit as this Memo. I'm taking it.
I'm gonna sign up right after this.
You know what I mean?
Got you.
Yeah. But you know, if you're an artist, if you want to listen to music, if you want to watch what other projects and artists we're developing, if you're someone who's looking for the kind of support, my answer to you is that at this point in time, it's so important for us to connect directly with our audience, because that's the leverage that empowers and really makes the work not be in the hands or susceptible to being covered up, covered over, ignored, shadow banned, tucked away, and not seen. It's really, really being connected with the audience. And in my case, I happen to be tremendously lucky. I do think that knowing that this album wasn't overtly, you know, it's not a political album by any means, but just the acknowledgement of things in the work, and also taking the opportunity to kind of really highlight them in the visual identity of the work, the videos, and so on and so forth. those things that I understand could be a risk, which is why I started to really pivot a lot of my work and the structure of my work to connect directly with my audience. Because in the case that I do happen to be, or the work does get tucked away, then I still have an audience there that wants to support the message and the art. So for all the artists out there and the ones that are streaming, I think my answer is that everyone should really be looking at ways to connect deeply and directly with their audience. It will support your work in ways, not only monetarily, but in the spiritual ways that we all need, in the real personal ways that I think really helps push the work through when it gets hard. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, with the work that I make, it's still to be determined, right? Like I'm still navigating it, and it's a risk for sure. And I'm kind of dealing with that myself with some of the things that I do produce and mutual aid, mutual giving, things like that, because there's, whether we're used to doing the work that feels good and has to be done, there's sometimes it's met with pushback, and that's stuff that at one day I'll release information about that, the stories about that in the DMs and in the emails and all that stuff. But just releasing something that I and this is just mutual aid stuff and mutual like or a drawing or like a neon or something like that. So there is pushback, and I don't have like a direct answer. I'm trying to navigate that myself, and I know it's been going on, for the genocide's been going on for a few years now, but it's like even navigating that, or just the wars that are popping up, it's all kind of just unpacking everything, even just the kidnappings and the ice raids. It's just so kind of you're responding in real time, and you don't know what you're going to get back. And it's like literally it's you're in motion, and you're still going to get, who knows, in a year or two or whatever. Like, so I'm still trying to navigate that myself.
Yeah, that question about, for us at Elite Taco, we're unapologetic. For us, we're always going to tell the stories we want to tell, regardless of what people try to tell us. And branding and getting big sponsors has always been the biggest problem. We've tried to work with brands that want to control our narratives or the stories, or like, oh, could you not post about this or that? And like, no, like what the fuck do you think you are? Like, our editorial is untouched and it's uncompromising. Like, we tell the stories, and some things are like, there's a lot of international issues like in Palestine and the genocide. We are LA Taco, we focus on LA. As of right now, with our small team, we can barely cover what we can in LA. There's a lot of stories that we go through our fingers because we just don't have the manpower. But we do try to uplift like the Palestinian communities. We have lists on where you can have Palestinian food. We've covered the Palestinian protests. We do that. We do what we can here locally. 'Cause for us, it's local first, and hopefully, maybe, I don't know, if we get 100,000 subscribers, we'll cover the nation and politics. So, sign on up.
Let's go.
I don't think it's a coincidence that LA birthed Black Lives Matters. LA Taco was the first city to stand up against the ICE raids and fight back. That it would create artists like Miguel, like Patrick, who are standing up. And it's interesting because recently, I don't know if you all know Resident Advisor. It's a feed about like clubs and DJs and dance music. They had a story about LA and about how what's come together is the protest movement and the club scene in the city. And I think young people are picking it up. And I think it's a way that that, like Miguel was saying, when you directly relate to the community, it's why we focused this conversation today on what we can do relative to the community. You demonstrate to those people who are there to make money that there's, this is where people are. And we're the voice of where people are right now. So, one more question, and then we're going to stop. This, yes, ma'am, right there.
Hi. Oftentimes in times of turmoil, you see sort of a, cultural renaissance, oftentimes in music and art. So I'm curious for all of you, how you see the evolution of journalism, music, and art, evolving to empower communities, in times of crisis moving forward.
Sorry. I think for us in journalism, we've really seen a revival in people realizing how important independent journalism is, right? Years ago, we would have to beg for somebody to give us a subscription. Now people are just super supportive. There's so many people are supportive, shouting us out, and I think a crisis like this is really showing people the value of independent journalism, especially independent journalism because it's so close to the communities, like the type of journalism we do. And we're first there, we're tied in, we have these connections, and we have national media reaching to us to ask us for our connections, and if we could connect them to these people and these stories, because they need us. We're on the ground, we're in the streets, we're with the people. And I think people are finally understanding that nobody can cover what's really happening on the streets like independent journalists. Mm-hmm. So for us, I think that's a renaissance point for us right now. Yeah.
I think the way that there's a universal angst that I think we're all kind of keyed in on, or we're feeling, and I do think that art in general, not just music, but all art, I think has the opportunity to express that and remind people that it's useful, that it's important, that it is it's essential to pushing things forward or pushing things in the direction that we actually want. But it's never at one person's expression. It is a collective, it is an accumulation of expression that really moves people. And it's also, it's such a humbling thing to understand, and also a powerful thing to remember that even after expressing how we feel and what we don't like, it takes a lot of organization and it takes mobilization to really make the changes that we want. And that's just across time and history. So it's, that's why I think meeting Memo and just really tapping in on the incredible work that him and his team do every day. It's a reminder that we all share, each and every one of us share in our 24 hours the opportunity to say something about what we see and to do something about that, whether it's within or it's without, whether it's in the way that we honor, the people that we come across, or it's the way that we speak out, on our social media, or if it's in the work that we do in our rooms or in our studios, whatever. It's an accumulated push that I think is important to remember, and I think being an artist, that's the honor that I have to be able to kind of just do that on the daily. I get to do that every day. So I think that's what we'll try and do.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking about the artists and just the visual art and the art world, kind of in the Renaissance. I'm proud of a lot of the artists that have kind of beginning of the year with the fires and all this other turmoil that's been coming up, kind of how they respond in terms of mutual aid. There could be more done, but a lot of people are in the art world. They could be kind of more reserved in a way, with a lot of the things that are happening now with the kidnappings and speaking out on a lot of the things that are happening in the world. But I'm also like very excited about what sprouts up from the grassroots, you know, like what comes from, like, even with Memo and like LA Taco and Alex and it's exciting to see, you know, like even people that we vote for, right? They're just you know, like I don't know who I'm gonna vote for because they're not yet arrived or they're not yet, you know, kind of campaigning, but I know that they will come out and they will kind of, because all of this conflict will produce artists and great art and, you know, independent journalism, because, you know, legacy media is not filling that void, and all of it I'm excited about, and even though that it's dark times and, you know, that's a kind of like the silver lining that I'm looking forward to, I guess.
So, thank you, Patrick. I'm speaking now as a longtime activist from back in the 70s and 80s in New York in the gay movement and through the AIDS crisis. One of the things that's so moving to me right now is to see how people independently of any organizations are getting together in their communities. They're patrolling, they're stopping ICE where they can, but we're picking it up and putting it into our own hands. And I think that that's a really important thing to be happening right now. And also, you know, as someone who works in an arts organization, to be able to support that and support artists who are doing that is really important. You know, I was on a call recently with friends who work at the Smithsonian in DC. They're organizing food drives so their colleagues could eat. You know, I think what the role we have to play moving forward is going to change and is changing. So I want to, with that, thank you all for coming out for this conversation. Thank you to my distinguished guests. Please come back and please speak with all of our friends from LA Taco and keep up the good work. Thank you.